Thank you for connecting to Nivesh webinar. Topic of today's session is Explore Investment Opportunity with ITI SIF, Specialized Investment Funds. For this, we have invited Mr. Laukik Bagwe, Chief Investment Officer, ITI AMC. Now, I would like to request sir to take the session forward. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. I hope you can see my presentation.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, as you all are aware of the fact that yes, SEBI has allowed SIF. What is SIF is all about, like specialized investment fund, which is exactly what we call it as in between your mutual fund and the AIF platform in itself. What we used to have with that AIF or a PMS platform, it is purely or predominantly it used to be only for the larger players in itself. Like AIF, you have to have an investment of a 1 crore and above. PMS, it used to have only a 50 lakhs and above with some limitations part of it. But and of course there were like too many freedom for the fund management part of it. Like they could have gone all the way up to 200% of the exposure part, whereby mutual fund has investment and investment patterns are concerned, and at the same time they have been very disciplined enough as far as making it their disclosures very diligently, doing the audit at regular intervals, and making it comparative analysis very easy for the common man, for the investors, for the distributors, and for every market participants. That is where the importance of a mutual fund and the mutual fund, the way they have grown all these years, last 20-25 years, the way we have accumulated the AUM of 75 lakh crore, which is quite substantial in itself. But at the same time, now SEBI has allowed the mutual fund players, whoever has been working in last so many years, with additional license to have a specialized investment fund, which is exactly a combination of AIF and the SIF and the mutual fund part of it, which comes right in between part of it. Here the story is like we have gone ahead and met regulators so many times. We have explained so many parts of the AIF, as well as the importance of having the merger part of it from mutual fund to AIF part of it, and come in between for the SIF kind of portfolio, which has certainly going to help the industry to grow at a different pace, at a different think tank also will come into the picture. This is what even a regulator has allowed us to have a common platform, use the common resources for next 5 years, even if it is a different company. In our case, it is a Divinity SIF in itself, which is sponsored or the offered by the ITI Mutual Fund, which would be there for next 5 years, with a logo also being assigned right at the beginning of the company itself. But at the same time, we are allowed to have a common resources for the next 5 years, right from fund accounting, operations, research, activities, trading, marketing, everything will be used in common part of it. So similarly, the structure would be always like, as I am a head fixed income for a mutual fund, but at the same time, I have been designated as a CIO for specialized investment fund. We have a expert, our group CIO, Mr. Rajesh Bhatia. He's been there associated with us for last almost 15 years. He's got a track of almost 8 years only into with ITI long shot, and overall around 18 years of long shot experience for him. So that is how,
Laukik, sir,
yeah,
sorry to interrupt you. Can we continue in both languages, Hindi and English both, if possible?
yes, surely. मैं जरूर ट्राई करता हूँ
Please.
दोनों के लिए भी. तो
Yes, sir.
या हाँ, let me have a combination of both Hindi and English. I guess it is okay, right?
Yes,
तो
sir.
मैं जो बोलना चाहता था कि एक जो SIF के लिए जो है स्पेशलाइज्ड इन्वेस्टमेंट फंड, जो कि सेबी ने अप्रूवल दिया है वैसे उसके लिए, which is a combination of mutual fund and AIF. एआईएफ जो अल्टरनेटिव फंड कैटेगरी जो थी पहले से ही लास्ट 10-15 साल से काम कर रही है, जहां पे इन्वेस्टमेंट मिनिमम 1 करोड़ के ऊपर होना चाहिए, या फिर पीएमएस होना चाहिए जहां पे 50 लाख के ऊपर का होना चाहिए. रेगुलेटर ने हमारे लिए वो अवेलेबिलिटी दिया, अपॉर्चुनिटी टू हैव अ कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ दोनों का भी, फॉर एआईएफ एज वेल एज फॉर दी म्यूचुअल फंड के लिए. तो जहां तक हो सके हम कॉमन रिसोर्सेज यूज कर रहे हैं फॉर दिस पर्टिकुलर कंपनी के लिए, जो कि हमारे कंपनी का नाम है डिविनिटी एसआईएफ. अभी यहाँ पे हम फंड अकाउंटिंग वाला, ऑपरेशंस वाले जो काम होते हैं, मार्केटिंग वाला डिवीजन होता है, जो कि कॉमन रिसोर्सेज के लिए हम लोग यूटिलाइज कर सकते हैं अगले 5 साल के लिए। दिस इज फॉर द ईज एंड कन्वीनियंस के लिए, सो दैट नया कंपनी जो भी हम लोग जो फ्लोट किए हैं डिविनिटी एसआईएफ के लिए, जो कि लीस्ट कॉस्ट में काम करे, बट एट द सेम टाइम यूज द बेस्ट ऑफ रिसोर्सेज विच यू हैव यूज्ड इन लास्ट सो मेनी इयर्स बाय द म्यूचुअल फंड। जैसे कि इक्विटी रिसर्च होता है ना, अभी इक्विटी रिसर्च के लिए हमारे लिए अच्छा खासा डेस्क होना चाहिए, जो कि 10-12 लोगों का टीम होता है। डेट में मेरे पास 2-3 लोग डेट के रिसर्च, क्रेडिट रिसर्च के लिए होते हैं। सिमिलरली हमारे पास डेट और इक्विटी के ट्रेड एग्जीक्यूशन करने के लिए अलग से ट्रेडिंग टीम होती है, जो कि हमारे पास इक्विटी के लिए 2 मेंबर टीम है, एंड एज वेल एज इन दो मेंबर टीम है इन डेट के लिए भी। सो ये जो कॉमन रिसोर्सेस जो कि हम लोग यूज कर सकते हैं फॉर अगले 5 साल के लिए। तो coming to the same, what is SIF part of it? As I mentioned, it's a combination of both, and for divinity it is like symbolize what we call it as a high integrity or for the universal wisdom, and a niti जो कि हम लोग जो बोलते हैं कि ethical practices or a moral governance part of it, follow the best of governance practice. That is how we derived our name called as divinity SIF part. Here यहाँ पे मैं एक बोलना चाहता हूँ कि इसका इन्वेस्टमेंट ऑब्जेक्टिव एकदम क्लियर है। द फर्स्ट धर्मा ऑफ दिस कंपनी, ऑफ दिस पर्टिकुलर प्रोडक्ट, इज टू प्रोटेक्ट द डाउन साइड, यानी जहां तक हो सके गिरते हुए मार्केट को पकड़ के रखना, या फिर एनएवी में वो डायरेक्ट इम्पैक्ट करने नहीं देना। बट एट द सेम टाइम इन द राइजिंग मार्केट आई हैव टू पार्टिसिपेट, जहां तक हो सके जितना निफ्टी ऊपर जा रहा है, आई शुड बी एबल टू पार्टिसिपेट अलॉन्ग विद दैट, सो दैट प्रॉपर रिटर्न कैन बी कैलकुलेटेड विद फॉल मार्केट को प्रोटेक्ट करूं। बिकॉज कई बार होता है कि डाउनफॉल मार्केट में वी रिमेन टू बी इन्वेस्टेड, विच इज नॉट ग्रेट फॉर द कंपाउंडिंग इफेक्ट एज वेल, बट एट द सेम टाइम वी हैव टू रिमेन इन्वेस्टेड बिकॉज आवर टारगेटेड इन्वेस्टमेंट रहता है। जहां तक ये जो स्कीम है, ये पर्टिकुलर प्रोडक्ट है जो कि बोथ कैप्चर कर लेता है, कि ऊपर जाने वाला मार्केट का मोमेंटम भी कैप्चर कर लेता है, बट एट द सेम टाइम फॉलिंग मार्केट जो कि नीचे जाने वाले मार्केट को वो कर्टल करता है, वो उसमें वो प्रोटेक्शन देता है। That is what the strategy is. The dharma is to protect the downfall in itself. That's how we would be going ahead with it. Let me just show one particular graph, like what we call it as a symmetric return profile. Okay, a fundamental equity investing जो कि हम लोग करते ही है, approach focused more towards the long term capital appreciation. पार्टिसिपेट इन अपसाइड, एज आई मेंशन, कि जहां तक हो सके तो ऊपर जाने वाले मार्केट को कैप्चर भी करना है, एंड एट द सेम टाइम नीचे जाने वाले मार्केट को प्रोटेक्ट भी करना है। अगर आप देख सकते हो कि जनवरी 23 से लेकर सितंबर 24 तक एक फिनोमिनल रैली दैट वी हैव ऑब्जर्व, वेयर बाय निफ्टी ने 42% का रिटर्न जनरेट किया, जो कि मेरे दिस पर्टिकुलर काइंड ऑफ एसआईएफ के मॉडल में हमने 44% काइंड ऑफ रिटर्न जनरेट किया है। नाउ एक छोटा सा बैकग्राउंड बता देता हूँ कि ये जो बैक टेस्टिंग जो कि हम लोगों ने किया है, विच इज एक्चुअली आर ओन डेटा पॉइंट इन इटसेल्फ, जो कि आईटीआई म्यूचुअल फंड हमारे पास खुद का एआईएफ है, लास्ट 8 साल से हम लोग मेंटेन कर रहे हैं। तो ये जो भी रिटर्न है, जो भी बैक डेटेड टेस्ट जो किया है, इज एक्चुअली ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ व्हाट वी हैव जनरेटेड अ रिटर्न इन लास्ट सो मेनी इयर्स, स्पेशली इन लास्ट 8 इयर्स। तो ये एक्चुअली मेरे एआईएफ का डेटा है, जो कि ऑन दैट बेसिस पे हमने जैसे रिटर्न कैलकुलेट करके आप लोगों को दिखाया है। तो लॉन्ग शॉर्ट स्ट्रैटेजी जो दिखा रहा है, लाइक जनवरी 23 से लेकर सितंबर 24 तक का 44% का 44% का रिटर्न जनरेट किया है, विच इज ऑलमोस्ट सेम और सिमिलर टुवर्ड्स द निफ्टी पार्ट ऑफ इट, टुवर्ड्स द निफ्टी ने जहां तक रिटर्न दिया है। लेकिन सितंबर 24 के बाद हमने देखा है कि करेक्शन अच्छा खासा हुआ, 26,200 का निफ्टी हैज गॉन ऑल द वे अप टू द 24,000 and 23,800 ब्रीफली इंट्रा वीक एंड इंट्रा मंथ में भी, जो कि काफी कुछ करेक्शन हो चुका था, एंड निफ्टी ने एक नेगेटिव 14% का रिटर्न जनरेट किया था, वेयर बाय विथ आर शॉर्ट स्ट्रेटेजी और लॉन्ग शॉर्ट स्ट्रेटेजी in this particular case we have managed to protect the downfall is only up to -3%। ओके जो कि अक्टूबर सितंबर 24 से लेके एक मार्च 25 तक मार्केट डाउनफॉल रहा, एंड लेटर ऑन अगर आप देख सके तो ऑलमोस्ट 6 से 8 महीना वी रिमेन टू बी इन द बैंड ऑफ 25,500, बारिंग प्लस माइनस 500 पॉइंट्स, बारिंग एक्सेप्ट लास्ट 2 वीक्स पार्ट ऑफ इट। बट ओवरऑल अगर आप देखोगे तो जनवरी 23 से लेके फरवरी मार्च 25 इट वाज अ करेक्शन, बट एट द सेम टाइम लास्ट 6-8 महीने से इट इज जस्ट अ वन स्टेडी प्राइस मूवमेंट ऑफ 25,500 प्लस माइनस में। अगर आप कंबाइन देखोगे राइट फ्रॉम जनवरी 23 से लेके मार्च 25 तक का, जो कि निफ्टी ने बिकॉज ऑफ द 42% अपसाइड एंड द डाउनसाइड ऑफ 14%, निफ्टी ने जनरेट किया सिर्फ 22% का काइंड ऑफ रिटर्न। ओके, वेयर बाय मेरे लॉन्ग शॉर्ट स्ट्रैटेजी ने वहां पे मुझे ऑलमोस्ट 39% का रिटर्न जनरेट किया। दैट इज प्योरली बिकॉज वी हैव मूव्ड अलोंग विद द मार्केट अपसाइड में, बट एट द सेम टाइम डाउन साइड हम लोगों ने प्रोटेक्ट किया बाय वे ऑफ आवर लॉन्ग शॉर्ट स्ट्रैटेजी, बाय वे ऑफ आवर स्ट्रैटेजी फॉर द शॉर्ट टू गेट इट प्रोटेक्टेड फॉर। नाउ further to get it asymmetric return profile, like gone way back, like right from 2018 से लेके भी डेटा पॉइंट अगर मैं निकालूं उसमें ये सिमिलरली सेम पोर्टफोलियो है जो कि हम लोगों ने एआईएफ में हमारे मैनेज किया है लास्ट 8 साल से, जो कि एक्चुअली डेटा shows that the kind of return that we have generated. The red line shows is about our return, वेयर बाय ब्लू लाइन जो कि है निफ्टी का रिटर्न है। क्या अगर आप देख सकते हो कि 2018 में आईएलएनएफएस का क्रेडिट क्राइसिस वाला पार्ट हुआ था, जबकि तभी -10% तक का रिटर्न जनरेट हुआ था। इफ अगर आगे चले जाऊं कि 2020 में कोविड के टाइम पे जिस तरह से करेक्शन हुआ था, दैट टू इन अ वेरी शॉर्ट स्पैन ऑफ टाइम ऑलमोस्ट 27% का नेगेटिव रिटर्न जनरेट किया था, वेयर बाय वी मैनेज जस्ट टू फ्लोट फॉर पॉजिटिव बाय दैट पर्टिकुलर पीरियड ऑफ 2019-20 पीरियड ऑफ इट। रेट हाइक साइकिल जब भी चालू हुआ 2021-22 से शुरुआत हुई थी, एंड जो कि 250 बेसिस पॉइंट का रेट हाइक हुआ था, जो कि इन स्पैन ऑफ लिटरली 6 to 9 months पीरियड में हुआ था, जो विच वाज वेरी इफेक्टिव एंड हैड अ लॉन्ग नेगेटिव इम्पैक्ट ऑफ ऑलमोस्ट 10% का रिटर्न जनरेट किया था निफ्टी ने, एंड वी जस्ट मैनेज टू गेट अ पॉजिटिव रिटर्न और मार्जिनल नेगेटिव बाय 0.50 पार्ट ऑफ इट। सिमिलरली जो कि एफआई फ्लोज has remained to be negative for almost 2 साल से, we have been observing they have been slowly and gradually moving out of the system, जो कि अभी तक -9% का रिटर्न जनरेट किया था, स्पेशली इन दैट पीरियड that we have shown earlier example में दिसंबर 24 सितंबर जनवरी 23 से लेके दैट पीरियड ऑफ फेब 25 में, जो कि -9% फॉर अ लॉन्गर पीरियड के लिए जो हुआ फॉर अ पीरियड के लिए हुआ था। अगर आप देखोगे तो 2018 से 25 तक के निफ्टी ने 130-135 पॉइंट का परसेंटेज का रिटर्न जनरेट किया था, जो कि मेरे लॉन्ग शॉर्ट स्ट्रेटेजी ने सिमिलरली फॉर द सेम पीरियड में 160-65 पॉइंट का मुझे प्रॉफिट जनरेट करके दिया था। दैट्स द काइंड ऑफ रिटर्न दैट वी विल बी एबल टू डू इट इन आवर लॉन्ग शॉर्ट strategy in itself. This is what we call it as a asymmetric return profile which has got generated. Where we try and get this part of it is of course by way of maintaining a different key ratios in itself. The basic difference is of course we try to keep standard deviation is well under control, जो कि हम बोलते हैं कि शार्प मूवमेंट हम लोग करने नहीं देते, जो कि निफ्टी ने 16-18% का काइंड ऑफ स्टैंडर्ड डिविएशन होता है बिटवीन द सेम पीरियड, जो कि हमारा स्टैंडर्ड डिविएशन इज लाइक हार्डली हाफ ऑफ इट। If I keep a maintain of during the same period, we remain to be at a lower part in itself. That's the kind of ratios that we maintain. If I maintain like indicate a sharp ratio, जो कि बोलता है कि टोटल पोर्टफोलियो रिस्क के सामने मैं कितना रिटर्न जनरेट करता हूँ। निफ्टी ने lower return generate kiya by way of a higher even though it is a quite a risky portfolio in itself, but whereby my strategy has worked well with a lower risk profile in itself. So that's how the ratios that we keep try and maintain part of it. I would like to throw one particular story is like about that the way we maintain it, the way we try and strategize our portfolio for the long short strategy on the basis of the expert Warren Buffett, who says that don't lose money. That's my first rule number. But at the same time, the rule number 2 is never forget the rule number 1 in itself. If I observe that if it is a too long a portfolio, like only just run a long portfolio, which is example of a portfolio 1, in a rallying part of it, it will generate a 75% first year, second year also 75-year kind of return can be possible. But that last third year, if you remain to be invested and if you have not corrected taken a corrective measures. अगर आप नहीं करते हो तो फिर the return will fall drastically in a falling market as far as your third year is concerned. Whereby my portfolio second, which is my alternative investment portfolio, even if it will move slowly and gradually by plus 40-45% kind of in a rally part of it, but जो कि मुझे protection देगा in a falling market, which will still generate a minus 5%. Cumulative, my return will be 190 kind of percent return, whereby only long portfolio will be able to generate a 150 kind of portfolio. That is how, जो कि हम लोग बोलते रहते हैं कि लॉन्ग तो लॉन्ग स्टोरी है, बट एट द सेम टाइम शॉर्ट में क्या करना चाहिए, फॉलिंग मार्केट में क्या करना चाहिए. दैट इज व्हाट वी ट्राई एंड जनरेट द रिटर्न्स और ट्राई टू प्रोटेक्ट द रिटर्न्स ऑफ द इन्वेस्टर पार्ट ऑफ इट. अगर आप देखोगे तो देयर इज वन मोर एग्जांपल दैट आई वुड लाइक टू शेयर कि आज के तारीख में लास्ट 5 साल से हम लोग ने सिर्फ वन वे रैली देखी है 2020 से लेके 2025 तक, जो कि अच्छा खासा रिटर्न जनरेट हुआ 30%, 40% ईयर ओवर ईयर ऑल्सो. whereby the old hands like us, we have seen कि 2008 से लेके 14 तक निफ्टी has remained to be at around 6000 निफ्टी kind of, जो कि even if it is a SIP kind of portfolio, but still it has not generated that great return in itself, because only purely where we started at 6200 Nifty, we remain to be at 6300 Nifty by the end of almost the 6 years in itself. जो कि आप इमेजिन कर सकते हो, कोई 50 साल का आदमी है जिसने इन्वेस्ट करके रखा था लास्ट 8 साल का, एंड ही हैड अ रिक्वायरमेंट टू गेट इट फंडेड फॉर हिज सम एजुकेशन, सन्स एजुकेशन, डॉटर्स मैरिज और वॉट एवर इट मे बी. If they want to redeem at that point of time, during that particular 2 year time or a 3 year horizon part of it, the return could not be able to manage and cope up with the expectation of those set of investors. We have seen that kind of frustration also within the investor class, even after remaining to be invested for a longer period of time, but still just because of the Nifty who has remained to be in sideways kind of moment. जो कि आज मैं वापस वही बोला था कि आज भी 25,500 का निफ्टी ऑलमोस्ट सितंबर 24 से लेके आज तक +-500 में ऑलमोस्ट साइडवेज काइंड ऑफ मूवमेंट हो रहा है. 12 से 15 महीने का रिटर्न इज लाइक हार्डली 2% होगा फॉर अ निफ्टी के लिए, वेयर बाय स्मॉल कैप काइंड ऑफ पोर्टफोलियो मस्ट बी नेगेटिव बाय दिस टाइम इन इटसेल्फ, जो कि विच गिव्स अस अ गाइडेंस सेइंग दैट मार्केट एक दिशा में नहीं चलता है, जो कि मार्केट कैन बी अ साइडवेज, मार्केट कैन also get corrected in a long prolonged sideways in itself. जो हम लोग देख सकते हैं कि 2006 से लेके 8 से लेके चालू हुआ था, लेकिन 2010 में और उसमें करेक्शन होके वापस बाउंस हुआ, बट इट हैज नेवर क्रॉस 6300 निफ्टी इन इटसेल्फ. This is how the overall strategy will come into the picture. Why a long shot in itself? Why there is a need for it? Because need not to be एक ही दिशा में market जाएगा, but at the same time, you have to have a return profile to get it match, which can be generated with the help of this particular strategy in itself. The strategy, as I mentioned, like it is a correction to be get it corrected, to followed with it, and maintain a proper risk management profile in itself. I would like to through something like what is the difference between my this particular and a purpose for having my long short equity strategy, whereby we are going to maintain equity portfolio of 80 to 100% in equity and equity equivalent part of it. Debt would be a predominantly a 0 to 20% debt allocation, of which majority of the money would be going for a cash or a cash equivalent for a margin utilization and purely for the managing the liquidity in itself. Whereby my derivatives portfolio would be, as it has been mentioned, that 25% of the naked portfolio I can still run. That is how it is going to be. REITs and InvITs, as per the permissible limits, I can still invest up to 0 to 20% of the REITs or InvITs. See, again, this is again going to be a strategic call unless until I feel like adding this particular portfolio, but at the same time maintaining the liquidity and the margin requirement of the portfolio, then only we would be participating in such instruments of REITs and InvITs. Derivatives for hedging, as I mentioned, it is only up to the 100% of net assets. Like AIF, it is never being going to be a 200% of the portfolio. It is just only going to be the 100% of the asset class. investment across four buckets, I would like to throw like how we would be going ahead with it. Like there will be a strategic long, fixed income is also going to be the part because it is purely a 0 to 20% of which, as I mentioned earlier, जो कि मार्जिन रिक्वायरमेंट के लिए होगा या फिर लिक्विडिटी मैनेजमेंट के लिए होगा. Now, tactical longs and tactical short is also going to be the portfolio profile in itself. अगर आप पूछोगे how much would be the strategic long or tactical longs, yes, we have tried and tested in our AI portfolio. Like 80% of the times we have generated kept it in between around 55 to 60% of the long portfolio in itself. जो कि tactical long हम लोग ने maintain रखा है as far as 10 to 35% of the overall AUM part of it. Derivatives mostly of futures that we would like to prefer rather than in options. That's how we prefer to do it, and we have tried our hands more predominantly into the futures part of it. Short, as I mentioned, is only up to the 25% of the AUM, which is again going to be the mostly into the futures part of it. Now, as far as calculation of net exposure is concerned, it is always going to be a total long part of it minus the hedges and the minus the total shorts part of it. That is how the net exposure calculation or the portfolio construction would be going ahead with it. Again, going to the further deep dive into the portfolio positioning in terms of the different market conditions like normal, bullish, or into the bearish part of it. In a normal condition, yes, we would be having a long position of around 65 to 90%, and the gross short would be around 10 to 25. If it is a bullish kind of portfolio, हमारा long equity का portfolio exposure would certainly be on the highest side, which is a 90-95%, or minimum would be 75 to 90% kind of range, whereby the net short would always be in a bullish market on a lower part ही रहेगा जो कि 10% plus minus में रहेगा जो कि the range is 0 to 20% kind of. If it is a bearish market view, our portfolio would certainly be on the left side of the portfolio requirement, which is a 55% as far as long portfolio is concerned. 55 to 70 का हमारा range रह सकता है for the for the overall long position, for the overall gross long position के लिए, जो कि short वाला position जो हमारा on a given time would be maximum up to 25%, as I am allowed only up to the naked short is up to 25% of the AUM part. So the range would be in between 10 to 25%. That is how the portfolio construct. Here again, if you observe, like as I mentioned, like if it is a bear, neutral or a bullish kind of portfolio, how it is going to be like a neutral kind of portfolio. If I say my net exposure would be plus 30 to 55 kind of range would always be there for, whereby as I mentioned earlier, bullish kind of portfolio रहूंगा तो मैं 95% तक भी gross equity exposure रहेगा, and in a bearish kind of way it would be a minus 25 for a net exposure part of it. That is how the construct would be always there for. It is mentioned in our portfolio like the way we would like to go ahead with it. If it is a bearish part of it, it is certainly going to be a tactical short along with the reducing the long hedge positions also. That's how the construct would be. We have defined further that how we would like to go ahead with the risk management measures that we have been practicing it in our AI portfolio, in our mutual fund equity kind of portfolio, where of course the more or less a typical gross equity exposure, as I've been saying, about 80 to 95%, and long equity exposure would always be 55 to 75%. My short equity, that is a tactical or a typical short equity exposure, would be in the band of 10 to 25% kind of. Of course, single security exposure, as mentioned in the mutual fund, also it would be maximum as 10%. Similarly, the SIF will also have that 10% as a cap. In a typical long single equity exposure, that's our in-house that we would like to keep it is like 2 to 8% of the single part of it. Similarly, a single short exposure would always be in the band of 1 to 4% in the range in itself, and a typical hedge is around 0 to 20%. Now try and understand this is a risk management practice which we would like to go ahead. We should not get trapped in a one particular stock or a one particular a set of sector in itself. That is how the risk management practice will come into the place, and which will help us in a long way to generate a proper return calculation, and at the same time giving a protection in a falling market at the same time maintaining the liquidity within the portfolio part of it. Now, I would like to throw some light, like in terms of why this kind of portfolio in itself, like our basic theme there, where we have mentioned that it has to have a maintain, liquidity. At the same time, it has to have a more or less towards capping the downside, and at the same time participate in a upside market in itself. Now, would like to throw something about like how we approach the overall strategic long kind of portfolios, whereby it is certainly we have a good research team in itself where we are allowed to share that kind of data, and the same use the same mutual fund research analytics and the fund management, where we have been covering a large exposure and the large portfolio within the long and multi cap, especially part of it. Here we will continue to do the top down approach and the bottoming up approach. Up is like purely for the business tracking models or evaluation, and for the economic cycle to capture with it. And that is how the overall strategy we would like to go ahead with it. A portfolio construct, as I mentioned about it, and of course, I it's a multi-year growth or a maintain a discipline, fundamental driven stock picking approach in itself, focus on steady compounding in itself. So that's how the overall strategy for a foundation, as well as for having a tactical long position also. The overall strategy would continue to be there in our portfolio construct in itself. Overall, I think, as I mentioned in my earlier speech, also like about the culture, mindset, our investment approach has to be thoroughly clear. What we would like to talk about, how we would like to go ahead with our investment profiling and the risk management practices in itself. I think I have covered most of the part as far as our highlights are concerned. Like, as you are aware of it, that the minimum investment has to be a 10 lakhs, and capital protection is like 100% upfront part of it. Uh, I think I would like to throw some light on the way our team would it be. As I mentioned, I am here as a CIO SF. I have an experience of almost 25 years into the market, into the financial market, whereby I have worked in fixed income, predominantly managing the balance fund, equity, and the debt exposure also. Overall, the experience of 25 years only into the fund management in itself. We have Vasav, who has joined us from the Quant Mutual Fund. He is having a background of overall equity trading and the FNO strategy. He is our expert in technical charts and the analytical part of it. And our group CIO, Mr. Rajesh Bhatia, who is being there with us also for the managing the funds. He is the one who's having 8 long years of managing only the ITI AIF and the overall 18 long years of AIF strategies, which he has managed. Almost like I can say that we have achieved almost a 15% of CAGR in last 7.5 years of fund management as far as AIF strategies are concerned. I think you must be well averse that the way SIP amount would it be, like the nitty gritties of it, like daily, weekly, monthly for the SIP frequency, and the amount would be 5,000 and in multiples, and the minimum first lot is to be invested for a 10 lakhs part of it. I think I have covered most part of the fund management part, and JP sir is our CEO, who's having almost a 25 plus years of experience part of it. So it's a well tried and tested team in itself. That is how we have been like come together to construct our portfolio and to manage the SIF book from here onwards. Would be happy to have a questions.
Thank you, sir. If any participants have any questions, they can raise their hands also, or else you can write your questions in the chat box.
Yeah.
रोहित जी, आप अपना सवाल पूछ सकते हैं.
Good evening to you, Laukik ji. How are you?
I'm doing well, Rohit. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so in the initial stage of the presentation, you have shown the back-tested data, and we have drawn a parity with the AIF of ITI.
Yes.
So this AIF, I assume, is the Cat 3 AIF you are speaking of?
Yes, it is a category 3 AIF.
Yeah, so my question is, see, when we go to a Cat 3 AIF, it is a highly structured, leveraged product. And if I am not wrong, the short position along with derivatives in that product can be much larger than 25% as what is the cap in a SIF.
Yes.
So with that kind of product, is it right to draw a parity? Because the portfolio construct is entirely different. You could have hedge funds also there.
Yeah.
So I don't think this is a right parity which is drawn.
Okay.
Uh,
Now,
Please correct me if I'm wrong.
yeah, no, no. Theoretically, yes. As a AIF part of it, yes, we are allowed to have a 200% of exposure in itself. Whereby the way we have managed this particular AIF, our long short only portfolio, is like 80% of the time our exposure has remained to be at below 100 or up to 100 part of it. Okay. This is a track that we have maintained. We have a portfolio. We have a data for it, and maximum, even if it is going to be like 10-20% of the time that where we have crossed 100%, max that we have gone with our exposure is like 110 or 120%. Okay, so that's why it's just getting very close. The way SIF mandate is all about, as I mentioned, that only 25% only naked portfolio position and 100% is only allowed for it. So that's why it is exactly the replica could possible as far as our AIF, the way we have managed in last 8 years. Yes, you are correct as far as the way others have been managing, the way it has been allowed to do it. But that is how we have. This is how we have managed in last 8 years part.
Okay, fine. But
Yeah.
maybe I am not convinced, but probably you will have a wider outlook to appreciate that. So just with one more
No,
request, if we could
no,
come
I
to
would
the
like to throw
slide
further.
of
Okay,
the,
let me explain further part of it. Because this is a pure data which
yeah.
we have managed in last 8 years part of it. If it requires, we would be happy to share that with data with you all also. Okay. The way we have managed like up to 100% and maximum 110 or 120% of the times. Okay. I'll tell you the further part of it. We have never like we have been trying and avoiding this kind of exposure is not into the small cap kind of portfolio. We are predominantly into a large and a mid cap part of it. Here, the logic of Rajesh Bhatia sir, who has managed last 8 years part of it, is also to have a liquidity within the portfolio. I hope you can understand it is difficult to sell short, a small cap portfolio within the cash level also, within the hedging part of it also. It becomes very difficult to get rid of it and have a protection also in a falling market. But in a large cap with this kind of liquidity within the overall large cap portfolios, it helps us to maintain both ways to move along with the market and to protect in the downfall part.
Yeah, I'm completely with you, sir. I'm appreciating the strategies which are being applied and how you are capturing the upside and limiting the downside. That is all completely understood. But probably,
Yeah,
okay, I am not in sync with the AIF part, so we can leave that, no issue. So may I
but
request you to come on?
yeah, but
Yeah,
Rohit, it
please.
is up. See, even in a AI,
Your
the
voice is
strategy
breaking.
would
Actually, I
differ
can't
from
hear you.
company. एक second, huh?
Your voice is breaking. Yeah.
Now is it clear?
Yes, better.
Okay, I don't know. Maybe some disturbance. See, I guess even I what I could understood AIF is like within the AIF also you can have a different strategies for the different set of investor. Right? If someone is allowing me to go all the way up to 200% or some another clientele with a 5 crore investment for managing the AIF for the portfolio manager, he can do only up to the limited part of it. So it will differ from style, it will differ from client to client and their mandate to the AIF fund manager. I think you were
That is
asking
correct.
some.
But in any case, yeah, my humble submission that any Cat 3 AIF will not certainly have a 75% long holding on a equity product.
Hmm,
That is for sure.
okay, point taken for. You were asking
Yeah.
something else,
So
Rohit?
anyway, let us, yeah, one submission. If you could come on the slide for breakdown of the portfolio construct in SIF. That slide, if you could show it, will I will ask the question.
Breakdown of portfolio.
Yeah, just a little more back. Yeah.
Yeah?
Uh, no, little more back.
नहीं ये तो काफी हो गया back. एक सेकंड
आपने
रुकिए.
एक स्लाइड दिखाई थी where you had highlighted what will be the long, short and Yeah, I think this one is the correct slide.
Hmm.
So if you could just explain what is a tactical long?
Uh, in terms of what is a tactical long? So this is a,
Yes.
long story. Like if you ask what is a tactical or the long strategic long in itself, is
Strategic long is
where.
okay, tactical long.
So in a way, sorry, a tactical long is where you would like to capture the one next momentum of maybe a particular sector, maybe a particular company in itself, which could be lasting for a next 3 months or a 6 months part of it. That is how we would like to play those kind of tactical longs.
That's a very
It could differ from a sector to tech sector. It could differ from a company to company. It could be a bottom up approach. That is how we would like to go ahead with our tactical longs.
so I mean okay, that's a very new concept which I am learning maybe for SIF. But do you think that kind of because how do you just assume that something will be in a long phase for just 2 or 3 months? It's a very myopic view on that. It's difficult to identify actually.
See, it all depends. Okay, if you have a view, let's say about a bank nifty, bank index, okay, your bank margins are getting shrink in itself. Okay, it has got affected in itself. If I'm done with my bank rate cut cycle to get it over, let's say by 5th December, I'm expecting a rate cut, and then thereafter margins to get stabilized in itself, I might will start building up my portfolio into a bank index. This is one of the example. Your consumer durables, you can still start constructing after the GST cut or in and around those news or information. But once the dust has got settled, once the profit and once the momentum has been captured, you can always think about moving out of the same or maybe move into the different sector in itself. That is how, and again, it's a tactical in nature. It could be, it is need not to be a longer percentage of the portfolio as we have mentioned. It could be a maximum up to 25%, and the minimum could be a 0% as well. That is how you will have to assign the different percentage. We would like to play well within those percentage part of it, and that's how the risk management will come into the picture, Rohit.
Okay, so just one more question. Like when we are saying that this product will have 25% short,
Yep.
does that 25% include the hedged positions also?
Yes, it could include the hedge positions also. Can you just hold for a minute?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like थोड़ा disturbance आ रहा है. Can you just hold? I'll just
Yes,
remove my
yes.
headphone. Just a minute. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Can you repeat your question? So,
Yeah, so I will just I will add an example to my question just for all of us to understand the product better.
mhm.
Suppose on a particular sector or in some way I am taking a short position, which as per the SEBI mandate, we can only go up to 25%. And the rest 75 is long.
Hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so I have 75 is long. Now I have gone for a 25% short position. So when you are saying that we can also have derivatives for hedging, does it mean that within this 25, the exposure to any futures has to be managed for hedging? Or the future is over and above this if I'm taking a position?
Okay. I'll just ask my fund manager to answer this part of it. So Vasav has also with us. Can you just hold for a
Okay.
minute?
Yes, yes, please.
Yeah, he's there with me.
Hi everyone. Sorry, just repeat that question once more. 75%
Yeah,
25% short. Your query is
yeah,
whether
can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, first of all, good evening to you.
Good evening.
See, let us understand this product a little more deeper. Just for the sake of clarity for everyone, I am posing this question. Suppose the fund manager has decided that as per the SEBI mandate, we can have a long position of 75, which is already achieved by the fund. Now, in a particular sector, multiple sectors, the fund manager wants to go short. So the maximum permissible limit here is 25% to go short.
Yeah,
Am I correct?
correct.
Now, if the composition of the fund as is being shown on the slide is that there can be a futures position also taken for through derivatives for hedging. So I assume that I am taking a future position for hedging either the long position or I am, I mean, if the fund manager is so defensive, he can take a short position, he can take a hedging position for short positions also. So how
Hedging for
that
short.
hedging position will be
So if
managed?
you're short, when you hedge, you have to cover it. Like if you're short, you go short a futures contract. So you can't hedge a short position. You can only hedge the long
Yes.
component.
So if I have already achieved a 25% short position and I need to hedge a long position simultaneously,
Yeah.
my just question is that how, if the limit is already 25%, does that derivative limit count over and above this? Can
Yeah.
can the fund manager
Hedging,
do
so
that?
I can hedge 100% of my portfolio, of my long portfolio, over and above the short position. Yes.
Over and above the short.
Yes.
Okay. So that 25% ceiling won't make a difference.
Yes. No.
Okay. Understood.
So
Fine.
any
Thank
long
you. Thank you so much.
position can be hedged and above and all 25% as a short.
Okay. Fine. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
If I would like to request other participants also, if you have any questions, you can simply raise your hands, or else you can write your questions in the chat box also. So we do not have any further questions. So I think we should wind up this here.
Okay. Thank you very much for giving us opportunity, Rohit. It was a good question.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Looking forward to, if you have any question, queries, or doubt, we would be happy to share our data, back testing. There is nothing to hide for it. We would be happy to have further discussion in itself.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, and my best wishes for the fund.
Yeah. Looking forward to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you, everyone.
Laukik,
Thank
sir.
you.
And thank you to all the participants also for joining with us. Thank you, sir.
Dhanyawad.